Hey guys, welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete channel. So the next video is a little excerpt of a longer video that I was doing where I was being interviewed for a kind of podcasty type, YouTubey type thing as well, which is yet to be released. So I was asked to just do some recording around about what my daily eating habits were as part of there was like an introduction, a lot of stuff around it as part of a much longer piece. But I've basically edited that down into some kind of key parts where I talk about my own nutrition and some of the principles around that. So yeah, hopefully it's useful in terms of how you might structure your daily nutrition. But if you like the video, can you please just give it a like and subscribe? If the type of content that you guys like is going to really guide what I do in the future. So again, I'm going to dig in a little bit more about nutrition and stuff as this channel kind of like develops and grows, hopefully. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video and let me know in the comments if you've got any thoughts, any questions around nutrition. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Hope you enjoy, hope you take something from it, and I will speak to you all soon. Kind of how I eat, and I'm not a big fan of these what I eat in a day type things, because everyone is an individual, everyone is different. But I do believe at the heart of all this, I talk a lot about principles over processes. So if we're talking about principles, I think one of the key principles for hybrid athletes, or any athlete really, is making sure that we basically tick our energy needs, basically that we hit our protein and carbohydrate needs relevant to our training demands. But at the heart of all of that is having the systems and structures in place to underpin those behaviors. I think so many athletes fall off in their nutrition because they either go to one extreme where everything is so pre-prepared and so prepped that it doesn't allow for any adaptability, and then they get food boredom, flavor fatigue and things like that. Or it's just complete chaos, there's no preparation, eating's all over the place, and therefore they lose all structure. They've got no sense of how many calories they're consuming, no sense of how much protein they're consuming, no sense of macronutrient intake in general, or if they're eating a balanced healthy diet. So this is how I do things, not so this is how you do it, but hopefully if you can follow the principles around the structure, the systems I have in place, you can adapt these to yourself. So how I tend to work is I have a baseline diet of around about 2,700 to 2,900 calories. And in that baseline diet, I'll show you what those foods are, that's where all of my protein needs, my micronutrition, my fruits, my vegetables, all the stuff that is going to provide those micronutrients, healthy fats, are going to be taken care of. And then what I do is I assess my training week, assess my overall body composition goals, and then I will then use that baseline diet to adjust up or downwards. Now, 2,700 to 2,900 calories a day might seem a lot, and it is, but I'm 90 kilos, so 190 odd pounds, pretty lean and very, very active. So for me, if I just ate at that consistently, I would lose body fat. At the moment, my body composition goals are to lose a little bit of body fat, but I'm not going aggressive into that. So I'm still trying to hit on average around about 3,000 calories a day on a normal day, and then using my longer runs and these big volume training weeks to then cause that extra calorie deficit. So definitely not eating back my calories after my long run is something that I use as a strategy. There's loads of different nutrition strategies you can use to lose weight and still perform. It's just one that I like when I'm doing my lower intensity stuff and my higher volume training weeks. I burn, according to my Garmin, and I know they're not 100% accurate, around about 5,000 calories on Saturday. So that's a nice bit of deficit. Even if I ate back, a couple of thousand of those, if I ate 3,000 calories that day plus, my normal daily needs, I'm still going to be in a significant deficit. So this week, because it's an endurance week, an endurance focused week, is really important. Like, it's a good opportunity for me where, I've only really got 1 or 2 hard interval sessions, so I'll make sure I eat plenty of carbohydrates on those days. But the rest of the week, I can chip into my body fat a little bit. I prefer to have higher calories on my strength training weeks, just simply because, one, for the recovery component, and two, because that intensity of work, that higher intensity stuff is quite glycogen depleting and is about that performance element in strength. And I do believe that carbohydrates, for me personally, and for most athletes, are I'm not going to say essential component, but definitely a helping hand rather than doing a lower carb approach. So I just know that my recovery tends to be more beaten up from my heavy strength blocks than my endurance blocks. So I'm going to make sure that I'm providing enough energy and nutrition there as well. But let's talk about this baseline diet. So what's in the fridge? So in the fridge we have Lots of protein yogurts. I'm a big fan of these Kvarg protein yogurts at the moment. They're 15 grams of protein per yogurt. I tend to either have them as like a yogurt at the end of each meal that I have, and just kind of like a little dessert, or I'll lump them all together at the end of the day, throw in some frozen berries, and that's taken care of. The rest of my meals that I tend to eat on a Monday to Friday, I tend to have these Fuel protein breakfast drinks. Again, 20 grams of protein, I think, in there. Where is it? Yeah, 20 grams of protein. And sometimes I might throw that into some oats and use that as like the milk to make oats. So I've got the protein and carbs in there as well. Or if I'm feeling like I need something a little bit more quicker digesting, say I've got a long run or a big strength session and I need to get some calories in, I might throw in some sugary cereal in there as well. And that sugary cereal might seem like it's a bad or junk food, but quite often they are fortified with things like calcium, iron, vitamin D. The rest of my meals. So I tend to buy these in bulk, and I tend to eat what I would say is like 3 like microwave meals a day. I don't believe any of the hype, and there's no evidence to suggest any of the hype. That's not the right word. There's no evidence to suggest that there's any detriment to microwaving foods in terms of the nutrient value. There's no detriment in terms of the overall health benefit. And for me, I love cooking. I see the value of cooking. I think it's really important to learn to cook so you can get your weights, your measures, understand food quality, educate yourself around foods and what they are. And again, if you're tracking food intake or you monitor your food intake in any way, which I encourage most people to do, particularly if they're new to nutrition, it's really important that we get an idea of, how much food we're consuming. So the rest of my meals tend to then be, so I'll usually have one of those fuel shakes for breakfast. Yogurt started through the day. These are just from these are from Asda, but you'll find most supermarkets will have their own versions of these. So I've got chicken and fragrant rice. I've got a piri piri chicken one there, which is the Gym Kitchen, which is stocked at the same superstore. We've got firecracker chicken. We've got Thai green curry. And then typically I'll usually have something like one of these extra special these slightly more calorific ones, which are close to 500 calories. Usually add some more vegetables to that as well, just to get some red meat in there for iron. Now, the reason I do it this way is because I do, like I say, I do like tracking foods and things, but each one of these meals is somewhere in the region of like 350 to 400 calories. So if I have those 3 meals a day, so the bolognese, or some of the red meat dish, there's like a stroganoff version and stuff as well that I'll have. If I basically have 3 of those a day, that's around about 1,500 calories. My yogurts are 85 calories a pop. My fuel drinks, I'll usually have a couple of those a day, usually one of them morning. I'm not a fan of drinking calories, especially if you're trying to lose weight, but for me, I'm really lazy with breakfast. I shouldn't say that, but I am. So I'll usually have 2 of those a day as well. They're 200 calories a pop, so that's 200, 400. I know each one of those meals is 500 calories, so we call that 1,500. That's 2,000. Then I'll have like 3 yogurts a day. So that's then another about 2,200. And on top of that, what I would usually have is something like a couple of coffees each day, so I enjoy it. And then maybe like a protein bar or just something that I enjoy eating. And then if I still need that extra food, that's where I will then add in something like, another meal of oats, which is where I would generally use the second protein shake of the day, maybe have that before bed. And it just gives me a little bit of wriggle room to not be super, even though I've got a lot of structure, it's not super restrictive and still gives me a little bit of flexibility to consume something that I like each day. And I think that's really important, and it stops me getting I think a lot of athletes, if they could do that and have systems and structures, then they can have a little bit of things they enjoy, still reach their goals, but then also not build like a really negative relationship with foods, which becomes problematic. Particularly like if athletes are on camp, then all of a sudden they restrict everything they enjoy. They lose loads of weight, but then what happens afterwards? They then regain a lot of weight because, once the shackles are taken off, all of those foods become extra tempting. And then they overeat and they binge and they gorge. It's like, it's back to that narrative of good versus bad foods, and it's not helpful. Whereas actually for a lot of the athletes, particularly my combat athletes I work with, I like them to try and include something every day that is something that they enjoy. Because again, it just shows them that they can get to their body composition they need to, they can make weight, they can perform, and they can still get there whilst eating these foods. But we do need to have some systems and structures in place. And on that note, those meals, they're really good and tasty. Like, you know, if I was to make those myself at home, I'd be more than happy with them. I think in the last few years, because people are busier, and the idea of these sort of meal prep companies has got bigger. But most of the meal prep companies I've seen before, the ones that specialise in kind of fitness foods, they don't taste great, or the quality tends to drop quickly as soon as they start to grow as a business. Whereas now the supermarkets have got onto it, and I feel sorry for those businesses because, you know, scalability is an issue, right? But over the last few years, most supermarkets now, Morrison's, Lidl, Aldi, Asda, they either stock brands like Gym Kitchen, which do good meals, or they've got their own healthier options of things as well. And most of them now, you know, there are focused to higher protein. So each one of those meals, the Gym Kitchen ones have got 31 grams of protein in them, 31 to 35 are the ones there. The Asda ones have got, what's that got in it? 6.1 grams per 100 grams. So there's 400 grams there. So probably about 20 grams of protein, that's 380 grams. And then obviously bolognese. I've checked on this one, but it doesn't really matter because my protein's super high anyway. That's got 33 grams of protein in it. So straight away there, you've got at least 30 grams of protein in each meal. So that's 90 grams. I've got 2 shakes with 20 grams in. So that's 140 grams. And then I've got those protein yogurts, which are 15 grams each. I'll have 3 of them a day. So that's another 45. So I'm already up to maybe 150, 160 grams of protein without milk and without any extra focus on taking protein in there, just from systems and structures. Each one of those meals as well usually has, 2 of your 5-a-day servings in that one. This one's got, doesn't say on it. No, they normally do say. Oh, that's got 1 of your 5-a-day. So, and the variety of vegetables in there means that, you know, in the UK we have this like 5-a-day thing for eating your fruits and vegetables. The one thing you'll see on there that I don't eat, which is a lot of fish and a lot of fat in my diet. So I do take omega-3 and essential fatty acid supplement, just because too low of fat can be a problem. So I only take a couple of grams of those a day, but that stops me having issues with too low fat. And like I said, of a weekend, that's when I tend to then maybe have a little bit more food freedom, and the amount of food freedom that I have in terms of, you know, eating those more higher calorie foods, high calorie density foods that we might consider junk foods, is when I'll do that. But I will scale that up and down dependent on A, my training volumes and my need for recovery, and B, what I'm trying to do with my body composition goals. So what I'm going to do this weekend is I will show you what I eat over the course of the weekend. But at the heart of all that, I still think it's important to keep those structures. So if you're struggling with weight loss in particular, I think a lot of people are really good Monday to Friday dieters. It's important to still keep some systems and structures for the weekend. You know, the belief that, oh, I'm sick of having structure and stuff and this, that and the other, I understand it. But unfortunately, it's very easy from a Friday evening to a Sunday night with alcohol and, you know, takeouts and brunches and visiting friends and cake and coffee and all that stuff. It's very easy to undo the deficit that's been created over the course of the week as well. So at some point, I will do loads of different videos on this stuff in the sports science shorts. I'll talk about creating a calorie deficit and how to do it, but this is just purely kind of how I do things. So hopefully you can extract some principles out of that that might be helpful. Hopefully, again, you might look at that and go, isn't that boring, eating the same way every single day? Again, is that something that we do anyway? It's just a limiting belief that we like to have, because that becomes a justification for eating, you know, 3 sausage rolls and a cake for dinner every day, or the highest calorie sandwiches in a meal deal. I guarantee you most people still eat the same foods most days, most nights of the week. So, you know, it doesn't become boring to me. You know, a lot of those meals there have got lots of variety in, and they're definitely tastier than what I would say most people would either A, make themselves, depending on how good a cook you are, and B, you know, what you would get from any other kind of eatery type place other than, you know, unless you're going to a really kind of, what's the word? Like a really nice deli or something like that as well. So for me, people will say that might be expensive. I don't find it that expensive. I spend on average between like 50 and 60 pounds a week on food. And obviously then, on terms of food for the cupboard. It's not cheap, I know, but then I think a lot of people forget that, you know, meal deals and things like that as well, they'll cost like a £5. If you do that 5 days a week, you know, that's 25 quid. plus a few coffees here and there as well. So although it's not the cheapest way to do things, it's just, for me, I'd rather pay that little bit extra money to have those meals prepped. And it also then means that I'm less likely to then, you know, order a Deliveroo or a Uber Eats or whatever, or Domino's of an evening. So I'd say that even during the week, I don't spend any money on takeouts or takeaways. And again, if a weekend, it might only be one day or one night, because I do enjoy cooking. So that's when I will take the opportunity to cook. So I'll cook my own breakfast, maybe cook dinners as well. So even if I was spending, let's say, £80 a week on food, I think for a little over £12-13 a day, less than that, I think, you know, for the amount of training I do, for the amount of recovery demands I get, for the amount of protein I get, I personally think that's reasonable. And ultimately, it's an investment in myself and my performance and my health. And it sounds like a bit of a cliched thing to say, but for me, yeah, I'd rather sacrifice some other things in my life that cost money to be able to afford to eat in a way that supports me and my goals, my business, not just my physical performance, but my mental performance. And yeah, it takes the stress out of counting calories and all the other stuff as well, which is important to learn and understand. But once you've got to that point and you understand what you need and the systems are in place, that we don't have to just keep doing that forever. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that content, can you please give me a like and a subscribe, and I'll be back with you very soon to deliver more content on my own training experiences and sports science education information that you can take and use yourselves, hopefully. Any questions or comments, as always, post them below and I will try and answer them as quickly as I can.